BBC Television Centre, London. The studio lights dimmed on a prestigious television debate show. I was in my suit and tie, sweating with nerves and anxiety, watching in the audience. I'd been going over lines that morning, but not my lines, lines for my boss, who had been preparing to be grilled on the hottest topic of the day, genetically modified crops. You know, the killer corn and toxic tomatoes you read about in the press. I'd scoured the morning newspapers to see if there were any issues that might come up on the show. I'd prepared him like every good PR person should when their boss is about to appear on national daytime television in front of millions across the nation. Stephen Smith had golden hair and rugged good looks. A bit like me, actually. Okay, use your imagination a bit there. He could charm anyone, from the most ardent environmentalists to the most pompous politicians. And he spoke with a Gloucestershire accent like this, that made him sound like a typical farmer. As we know, all English farmers speak with an accent like this. They do. He was in makeup, charming the lady who was preparing him for the camera. I said, Stephen, there's an article in the Financial Times this morning saying that statistics in the US have shown that genetically modified crops aren't giving farmers the benefits they'd hoped for. If this comes up, you say this. Right, Peter, he said. Just a bit more powder over here, my love. The studio lights went up, and I was the only one in there wearing a suit. On the panel, there were 3 experts ready to do battle on today's topic of Frankenstein foods, as the Daily Mail likes to call them. There was a scientist, you know the type, socks with sandals. There was a Greenpeace guy, you know the type, dreadlocks, smelled of marijuana. And there was Stephen Smith, the head of the company that was supposedly polluting the English countryside with these evil crops. The first question came from a small guy at the front of the audience. He said, yes, I have a question for the panel, he said. I read an article this morning that said statistics have shown genetically modified crops don't work. Is that true? This was the question I prepared him for. I felt so proud, so good at my job. Straight away, Stephen got to his feet. He said, well, if you ask me, statistics are a bit like a bikini. And he cupped his hands like this. This isn't what we'd rehearsed. This isn't what I'd prepared him for. He said, statistics are a bit like a bikini. The parts that you can see are not very interesting. It's the parts that are covered up that are vital. I was devastated. I slumped back in my seat amidst the housewives, students, unemployed activists. How could he? How could he? But to my surprise, the audience loved it. They found it refreshing. They expected boring stats and jargon, and instead they got humour and wit. For the next hour, he had the audience eating out of their hand. He wiped the floor with the Greenpeace guy like a dreadlocked mop. It was at that moment, as I was sitting there with my tie cutting into my neck, my boring, dull corporate messages shoved under my arm, I thought, maybe if people in companies stopped taking themselves so seriously and started talking a language that real people can understand, they'd get more people on their side. How many of us sit there for much of our day, wasting much of our day in boring meetings, listening to self-important people drone on in absolute gobbledygook? Yes, I know I do. We want to engage our people, to innovate, to think outside the box, to be a game changer, to move the needle and shift the paradigm, to turn challenges into opportunities. We deep dive. We create work streams. We create islands in the stream. We put the fish on the table and the elephant in the room. You've heard some of these, obviously. We even peel back the onion as we penetrate the low-hanging fruit. At the end of the day, it is what it is. We don't know what we don't know, so we dovetail our synergies and we go the extra mile. It's bullshit, isn't it? It's corporate Tourette's. Now, I've worked in corporate communications for over 21 years. So, yes, madam, I am older than I look. For those of you who don't know what communications is, it's just like HR, but you've got to be good with people. Thank you. I like to call it the propaganda department. And I've contributed to this avalanche of business balderdash over the years. Is there anyone else here guilty? Yes, some down here. Stephen Smith would call people like us as generating more heat than light. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to put you all to the test to see if you can tell which business balderdash is real and which is fake. Little competition going here. I've brought along a few examples. Before I go on to the first example, let me just tell you that writing a mission statement is a staple activity of a team-building off-site meeting. Basically, it's a meaningless piece of jargon pulled together by a group of people who don't like each other but have to pretend to. Here's the first example. Mission statement. We are catalysts of global excellence. We live our values, which are to bring indispensable expertise in a three-dimensional perspective, demonstrate courageous voice, acting as change agents and challenging the status quo. Who thinks it's real? Who thinks it's fake? This is actually real. And it didn't really take me long to find. You can hear the conversation now, can't you? Occupation? Catalyst of global excellence and part-time change agent. Favorite rock group? Status quo. I find them quite challenging. Now, I won't reveal which company this is from for anonymity and also to protect my job. But we see this kind of thing all over the place, don't we? What does this really mean if we boil it down in essence? They probably fly around the world giving PowerPoint presentations. Here's the next example. This is an internal appointment announcement. In this position, Joe Bloggs will develop a strategic planning approach across all functions that is aligned with existing processes across the company. Further, he will drive a coordinated approach to initiatives that promote functional excellence and organizational development, along with bringing in best practices. Who thinks it's real? Yes, you'd be right. It's another real one. Now, if you're like me and you struggle with answering the question, what do you do for a living, Daddy? Just spare a thought for this poor guy. He probably does something like this. Just a couple more so that you get the idea. The next one is a statement from a recruitment brochure. We will commit to professionally synthesize resource leveling leadership skills so that we may continue to collaboratively foster competitive methods while maintaining the highest standards. Who thinks it's real? Who thinks it's fake? You're the winners this time, over here. This is fake. This is from a website called missionstatementgenerator.com. So if anyone wants to save time and money on team building meetings, then just go straight here. And a final one. This is the title of a business talk that was being promoted online just recently. How do you hold the space for newness to emerge? Real or fake? This one's real. If you look at it, the words seem normal, but are in fact total gibberish. It's new age business balderdash 2.0. Thankfully, I've discovered an antidote. And it came to me one blustery evening in the deepest eastern agricultural area of England in Norfolk. I was there with Stephen Smith, the Frankenstein food man, to address a group of villagers in the place where we were holding a trial of our genetically modified sugar beet. I said, Stephen, why do we bother coming all this way to talk to a group of people that we'll never convince? He said, Peter, we're not wasting our time. We walked in there as two faceless men in suits from a corporation they don't trust. And we walked out of there as two decent blokes who bothered to go and put our point across in a language they can understand. So now I urge all of us to stop speaking self-important nonsense and start speaking sense. Take off your bikini so we can see what's covered up. Not now, madam. Later. And the antidote consists of 3 simple questions. So every time you're about to write something, whether it's a mission statement or whether it's a Facebook post, every time you're about to say something you think is important, whether it's on a television debate show or whether you're doing a TED Talk, just pause for a moment and put what you're about to say to the test of these 3 questions. So what? Who cares? And as my old friend Stephen Smith used to say, who's the father? Thank you.